Hey, I'm Dave Filoni, Supervising Director of Star Wars The Clone Wars, and I'm here to talk about the Battle of Umbara. Umbara is a dark world, very alien, and this was a massive four-part arc that involved our good friend, Jedi General Pong Krell, not the nicest Jedi, as some of you may remember. So got a couple of my leads together, and we are going into the darkness on Umbara. First of all, to visualize the Umbaran arc, I think we really wanted to go for something that was different, a very alien planet. Usually in Star Wars, we do planets that relate to a forest or a snow planet, but here we wanted to do something that was very foreign for people to look at and experience.
Yes. Well, we're all busy watching this while you talk.
That's kind of the plan.
Yeah, it was. It was really tricky because, I mean, what do you do to not do a forest or do a jungle? And I think in the script it actually said jungle the whole time, so you're kind of picturing trees at first, but you also know that it's whatever it ends up being, it won't be.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't trees.
Well, yeah, I know you knew it wasn't trees. We just didn't know what it was going to be that wasn't.
Had Umbaran monsters, right? Like on the ground?
Yeah, bizarre trees. The plants were going to be alive.
Yeah.
That was one of the early discussions we had, was how we could get some of these things moving a little bit, almost like undersea life.
Yeah, I mean, we looked at the plant monster, and we looked at, the Kraken from Pirates of the Caribbean, and the Watcher from Lord of the Rings, and really tried to get that kind of a feel to this thing.
It's one of the more disgusting things we've done.
It is. I put
That's for
saliva
sure.
on the teeth and everything, and added all that kind of stuff, which was also played a really cool part.
I mean, you had a challenge editorially in that I don't think a lot of people think about it, but we tell one big story, but we do it, with different episodic directors. It's almost like having different teams
Stu
of
did the
people.
first one, yeah. Stu's episode, Darkness on Umbara, that was a little wider. It was kind of more about the battle, more about getting into the planet.
Yeah, wider scale of the battle.
And then the Caterpillar, they came in, and also the spider droids came in on Walter's episode.
Yeah.
And he was able to really make those come alive in a way that was great.
Yeah, it was really impressive. I mean, you can't talk about Umbara without talking about, I think, working with Walter.
Yeah,
the experience for the whole crew.
For everyone, yeah.
I think it was educational for us in many areas. Just especially the amount of detail, the thought process that goes into everything. And then of course that he's so Dooku.
Sure.
To us. I mean, one of my favorite things is how he reminded us. We even had him do temp voice work as
He
Count
did
Dooku.
yeah.
And he was game for it. I mean, that was the best thing, I think, is those guys that come in to do, guest directing really become a part of the crew really quickly.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he brought that when Krell was talking to Obi-Wan at the beginning of his episode. There's that moment where he's like Robert Duvall in Apocalypse Now.
Yep.
He was definitely trying to go for that, where all the explosions are going off and he's just standing there unfazed by it.
Remember, General Krell, the entire invasion depends on your battalion.
Now, Krell was actually originally inspired by a drawing you had done years
way
ago.
back in season 1.
Years ago.
I mean, there was him who was a whatever Dexter Jetters. What is he? A basilisk or
Basilisk. I'd call him Basilisk.
Whatever he is, there was like a doodle of one of those as a Jedi. There was a drawing of a Toydarian Jedi as well.
You had done those.
Yeah.
We don't know where those went, actually. That was one of the things in the move from behind the main house to Big Rock.
Bunch
That
of stuff.
drawing disappeared
Yeah.
Cool.
into someone's, box that went home or something. I don't know what happened to
Don't get me.
it.
It wasn't me.
Yeah, Lucasfilm property.
Have you looked at Killian's house at all? It's kind of.
There's a giant stack.
It's in his kitchen.
Yes. So no, but yeah, Krell was. His name wasn't Krell. He didn't have a name. He was just one of a sort of lineup of random potential Jedi.
Yeah. It was also good to kind of experiment with a different body shape as far as. We've seen Dexter Jetters. He's kind of a guy that, he watches his Monday Night Football. He's eating a lot of burgers. This guy is going to be a lot more fit, you know.
I think one of the things we took from Dexter was the gullet, and we actually put some animation on that, which really, I think, helped in like breathing moments and slow moments with him to really start seeing that moving.
I'm trying to think for the audience. This was probably the first story arc where they saw the new buckets. They might have appeared in the Mercy Mission episode.
It was Mercy Mission.
Mercy Mission was the first.
But this was the first in earnest that they really got to see a ton of them.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
surprise,
we revealed
surprise.
Rex's new helmet.
Wolfpack get the first
Well-
crack at the new armor. Pure coincidence.
Wolf
I'm
got
sure.
another helmet too. I mean,
Yes,
people
he
say he's
did.
got one helmet per season.
He's the trendsetter.
He is.
It's more like
well,
one
he's
helmet
Wolf.
per show.
Wolf
It's
is
like
the
every
best.
time he shows up, he's got a new helmet.
He's a fashionista.
He is.
Apparently,
You know, he really,
yeah,
he's got style.
yeah. But
Whereas
still,
Rex won't give it up.
no.
No.
Rex keeps trying to wear the same armor. He's hybrided his old armor into what you see now, and we thought that'd be kind of a good character trait for Rex to have, is that he's welded his armor. It makes him more unique.
Mm-hmm. I think what was great was that we got down in the clones' sort of point of view.
It would help if you eased their minds. What, you mean coax them into following another one of Krell's suicide missions?
And this is a great scene right here between Fives and Rex because of the dynamic that they have going on. Yeah, it was interesting because Rex is trying to follow, he's trying to follow the orders that Krell's given him, and you have Fives who easily can kind of see that this is wrong, and he's taken action.
We're soldiers. We have a duty to follow orders, and if we must, lay down our lives for victory. You believe that? Or is that what you were engineered to think?
You know, the strategy of these episodes before we begin to shoot anything is as important as the final lighting in many cases.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that helped too was that the Umbaran tech is very different to Republic or Separatists too. So there was opportunities to do stuff with the way people even get in and out of their ships that you wouldn't normally get if it were a Vulture droid or something.
Yeah.
Within the design department, we call this our video game planet because it's all the stuff that you usually don't get to do because it doesn't normally fit a Star Wars aesthetic, but because we'd never seen Umbara or anything to do with it before, it was a chance to sort of just do stuff that normally wouldn't quite fit in.
Yeah.
Which was one of the plans. I mean, I think that, giving you guys an opportunity to really design outside of our, normal constraints and having a visual aesthetic that said these are humanoid combatants, but they're not the good guys. They're not the clones. They are instantly recognizable as something completely different.
Yep.
And going with this really high performance PVC plastic type look to the ships and their flexibility, let it be very alien and different. They're very, I will say they're very well armed people, the Umbara.
They got some
Much
tech.
is clear.
The big guns have arrived, sir!
It's amazing too because they have all this high-tech stuff, but they apparently never discovered the ladder because there isn't a single
Very
rung
true.
anywar. Everything is a force field that floats.
Well, they're beyond the ladder.
Apparently.
They moved past the ladder.
Yeah.
They had the ladder and they just said, not good enough.
No ladder.
Whereas most of our ships have 80-foot, 90-foot ramps
Yeah,
that
the
everybody's
best is
gonna walk
Hondo's.
up.
Yes, they
Hondo's
do.
pirate ship
Hondo's
was
pirate
like
ship,
20-story
the
climb.
biggest ramp ever.
This was great. The hologram on Umbara
Yeah.
was amazing.
The hologram
That's
on
all
the bar
Joel.
with the
What?
cubes.
That was actually all Joel.
Oh,
Like,
Well,
we
that
did
was
a-
something that
really,
I
really
went to
good.
Joel and I said, I don't want to do holograms of this planet like anything else.
Yeah.
I said that ultimately what the hologram should be is made up of hundreds of little cubes.
Their fleet outnumbers ours, and the extra ships we were promised have not yet arrived. We cannot expect.
The sound effect was really great that what those guys did. with
It gives
Matt and
everybody,
Dave.
and that's the thing on this show, as you guys well know, is that you have people that want to creatively leap. And I know if I say, Joel, I want to make something out of hundreds of cubes,
Sure.
and I want it to come together and then fall apart like a sea, that he'll actually find a way to do it. He's never daunted by anything. I mean, the guy
That's
just,
very true.
it's like, I can do it. And I don't even know if when I ask him this and he says
No,
he can do it,
He's just saying that.
I don't know if he has any clue how he's going
Not
to
at
do
that
it.
point. He's thinking, oh, God, I have to do this.
But he finds a way to do it. He took a quantum leap. Your animation also followed suit. I mean, I ask you to do nutty stuff all the time.
The tents.
The tents. We'll get to the tent flapping. That was a major battle.
Well,
This was incredible, by the way.
This was awesome.
The shot that Kyle Dunleavy set up where they're flying through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way he did that was he actually set up the whole space battle in one file. And then he flew the planes through it on a track.
Oh, wow.
And he brought me up to his desk. He says, I want you to see something. And he played it. And it literally was like one of those IMAX theaters. We were
Yeah.
flying through this all as one shot.
That's
Wow,
awesome.
that is awesome.
I mean, that
Man.
Dunleavy. I mean, he's just.
This was, I mean,
A rock star is unbelievable.
And this space battle has a ship that was pretty much designed by George. That thing.
The barbell, the dog
barbell,
barbell.
yeah.
I mean, Andre
Barbell,
Kirk,
that's what we call it.
That guy right there.
that thing is,
Yeah.
that's a brand new ship for this episode.
What's
And
it called? What's that?
I don't know. Does it have a real
What do we call
name?
that thing?
It's like
I called it the
It's
barbell.
like the separatist
it's
supply
separatist.
supply
or
ship.
something.
It's
I love how none of us know. There are kids out there right now going, "Hey, it's called this."
yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know.
but we do really
always
work
call
on
it
the show.
barbell.
That's undeniable.
Yeah.
But do you know why we designed this ship?
Yes.
Would you like to tell the story? You may tell the story.
Really? You sure? Wow.
Well, I'll
thanks.
correct you. I'll correct you if
Okay.
I'm wrong.
Well, this originally was the Donut, right? The Trade Federation
This is
sort
a
of
Trade
control.
Federation battleship. That's correct.
And then I think this is, as I understand it, George felt that wasn't really a warship, that they used them in combat because they didn't have enough other ships, but ideally they would use something more like this. It would almost be like taking an oil tanker into a naval battle.
close.
okay.
You could kind of do it, but it's not.
You're not quite getting there, Kate.
You're close.
No, all right.
That's
correct
very
me.
similar. Yes,
All right.
true. But I mean, that's a great in-world explanation.
Okay.
So we'll go with that.
Okay.
In reality, as much as there is in the show,
Uh-huh.
George wanted to separate the Trade Federation vessels from the Separatist period. Because something that's really come to light in the Clone Wars series is that George sees it as Separatists, Republic, and then in the middle is big business,
Okay.
the corporations. And he felt that the donut ships represented too much the Trade Federation from Phantom Menace.
I see, like the
Now-
aristocracy or something, like something that.
Well,
the
just
trade-
as that they're trade.
Yeah,
And that
trade.
they sit neutrally in the war,
I see.
shipping arms to both sides. Now, you can bring up to him, well, but in Revenge of the Sith, you see these painted up
everywhere.
as battleships in the big battle.
Yeah.
But at that point, they had kind of thrown all in
Ran out of
with the
money.
Separatists or the Trade Federation maybe did. That all needs to come to light with Nuke, Gunray, Wat Tambor, San Hill, Pas Argente, all those guys, and explaining who the Separatist Council is that you see in the films versus the Separatist Senate versus the Trade Federation and the guilds. The Commerce Guild, the Trade Federation, the Techno Union. That's why we have all those guys we've invented that have nothing to do with the council that you see. Because in the EU, it's always been seen as a Trade Federation or Separatists. But that's not true. Obi-Wan Kenobi witnessed a business deal going on. And in the business deal, he saw those corporate leaders telling Dooku they're going to sell him arms and sell him droids to build an army. That doesn't mean that those corporations don't also have deals with the Republic to give them arms.
Right.
But it got blanketed in all the media that it was very black and white. But the Clone Wars is anything but black and white, as we know. So the barbell ship, what we call the barbell ship,
Yeah.
Which I'm sure has a real name.
which probably has a real
Must
name
have a real name.
that I'll get emailed on my fan page any second now. But the barbell ship got created to say this is a separatist fleet ship that is used for transporting arms and armaments.
Yeah.
And then we've never used a donut ship since as a separatist ship. We did in season 1, we did in season 2, possibly even 3.
Maybe.
But
I
remember
can't
when we went to Pantora
That was a donut ship.
and George had us take all the blue markings off of it, I believe,
Yeah.
and treat it just as a Trade Federation vessel. And that was kind of what led to the creation of this ship. So you
Right.
see, it was a simple explanation.
Yeah.
And almost exactly like what you said.
Well, kind of.
It was very similar. Then there it blows up.
But then it was very late in
it
the
blew up
day.
really well. But
It did. It did,
Yeah,
for sure.
and that was like, it took 2 people to make that thing happen really, really fast. It was Andre Kirk did the fully tricked out designs, and then Corey
Corey did
Wheatley,
an amazing job on. Like,
It's
if
a-
you
Oh my
actually
gosh.
see that model, like
they built
it's
that thing so fast.
detailed
Yeah.
out,
And it's a
it's-
fantastic model.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
yeah. It was pretty much done in like 2 days.
It
how
was,
many
like, really
times,
fast.
here's a good question. How many times have we rebuilt the Jedi Cruiser?
Wow, that is.
That's a Corey question. I think
Yeah.
we're up to 6.
I was gonna say
I mean,
5,
it's not the
but
same ship that you saw in the Clone Wars
No.
movie. That's
No.
my point.
Wow.
And that's something that a lot of people don't realize about the assets on the show is that, you know, we rebuild them constantly
Oh, yeah.
just to keep upgrading them. I mean, your
Yep.
facial shapes.
Well, this was one of the first with our new facial shapes for the clones. I mean,
That's right.
really pushing that.
Now, we were a
stuff.
little worried about that.
Yep.
We were a little worried about that. Like, do they now move too
much,
realistically?
yep.
But, you know, the audience just really accepts that change because they accept the characters.
That is what's interesting here too, because the facial expressions on the clones are, you can see they're different. Like you were talking about it this morning with the brow, you can kind of rig it to where one has a lower brow, and then that way you can differentiate them other than just tattoos.
Well, and that's something we
hair.
should follow up on, which is earlier in the day you were saying, like, how do we make the clones all seem like different people? And I said, really, it begins with Dee's performance, the vocal performance. But I mean, you could probably go more at length on how
like
you
you
actually
just said,
do
we
it.
lower the brows a little bit for certain ones. Jesse had them just a little bit higher overall. One had a little bit more of a tilt of his head. There's different little sort of things that you just can do to signify it really. And then you came up with the clone triangle.
The clone triangle,
which I still have in my office, laid out like where Fives is at, where Rex is at, and it basically shows like what their allegiances are, and you can I use that as a guide all the time.
So what's the clone triangle? Is what one is more conscientious? And
it's
one
something
is
that Dee Baker and I use when doing the vocal performances. We have this triangle, and we'll say that cut-ups on one side of it, like he's more of a joker, and then Fives is more of your regular soldier, and then maybe Tup is somewhere in between.
Or Dogma, I guess.
Right.
Dogma
we go
would be
from
on the
like
other.
very experienced to inexperienced to how they think about the war.
That's great.
And those three factors. And Rex is always kind of
He's
smack dab in the middle.
Yep.
He's
Dogma is definitely the one that listens. Like that's why in the end of this, he's the one that listens all the time and thinks that whatever Krell says, that's what I have to do.
That's the order.
And Fives has more of that thinking. He kind of starts to figure things out on his own. That kind of thing. So
this was a great scene.
It's.
The execution scene.
I remember when we were editing this, it went through about 5 or 6 different versions over the course of like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, and we did it again in color.
And we
because the episodic director did. He was like, the moment of shooting.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's right. The amount of shots.
The amount of
shots
was changed in color.
And I was very insistent.
Yeah, because before they
were shooting all over the place, and I was like, "What? That's not how you execute someone." Because I have such experience with that, being in charge. I think you don't execute; you take one shot.
That's right.
Take off their binders. No, we have orders. We have to go through with this. Good luck finding anyone to do it.
Now we're coming up to the real drama.
Yeah.
This is where.
This is the heartbreaker.
Waxer, why?
Yeah, this is where I'm sitting.
It could have been Boyle.
It could have been Boyle.
But it had to be Waxer.
Yeah.
And that was our first tear.
That's right.
Wars. Like,
the first time we ever had a character cry.
Yeah.
Not just look like they're about to cry, but actually physically cry with one tear. And that was all Joel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I have to say that idea.
Awesome.
Really came up with the timing between you two.
Yep.
To really kind of find a great place for that. And I remember when Joel showed it to me in his office, and I was like, that's just perfect.
Yeah, it worked. And then, the sound design came in with the little trumpet behind and stuff.
It was you.
Where I got that idea for the trumpet part? That, no joke, was from Predator.
Oh,
really?
Because at the end of Predator, when Arnold has survived, and the helicopter comes to pick them up, and you hear that little trumpet theme.
Oh, wow.
And I always remember that. And it kind of really has his reflecting about everything that went down. And I mean, Predator, come on, classic.
Yeah, no, it's true. If you're going to borrow from the greats,
Hey,
Predator.
I love the Predator, come on.
General Krell, you're being relieved of duty.
I always wondered, as far as the narrative goes, how much fans would or wouldn't know that Krell was going to be a villain and a complete turn point.
Yeah.
And that paid off pretty well.
It paid off really well, much to our surprise.
A lot of people didn't know,
Well, we debated it all. We're like, this is so obvious.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we doing here? We know that this guy is going to be a bad guy, but fans really hung on to the idea that he had let his attachment just kind of go to the highest level that we've never seen it before, and that he wasn't treating clones like people because he didn't want to be attached to them, which I think is a fair judgment. But it really worked almost better than we thought in a lot of ways.
Well, you know, his demeanor isn't that different to Mace Windu. So when you're watching him the first time through, he just seems like he's a tough guy.
Very
you know,
standoffish and.
I mean, ultimately, something that I've always wanted to explore would be if we had introduced a character like Krell and let it go a whole season.
Yeah.
Right.
Introduce Krell in the beginning and have him be a good
Good
guy.
guy. That would have been.
And we see him doing heroic things.
That's what killing was.
And then over the course of 22 episodes, you watch kind of the corruption of Krell fall into this place where he, I mean, you know, the sense of loss already for some of the kids when the clones go down, that would have been.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because at that point, you probably have the kids running around with their Krell costumes, fishing line and forearms. And he's my favorite, and he turns out to be a bad guy.
Right.
So we saved them some suffering.
Yeah, it's just as well that doesn't happen with like the main character or anything. You know. We were just talking about how the amount of prison doors that aren't doors on the show is pretty amazing because you can't see the other
You gotta
person.
get the over-the-shoulder.
I know.
shots
There's
and
a futuristic world here.
I know, but it's like it's
prison
always
door.
an energy door. It's
Can you
only
tell-
some kind
I'll
of.
give you, here's a little, put you on the spot. Have we ever had swinging doors in the Clone Wars?
Swinging doors.
Doors
That
we've done
swing, doors
once.
that don't.
Yes.
Oh,
open.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
We have.
We have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where
Just
was
recently,
it?
413
playing.
Brothers. We had him when Anakin pushes open.
When he goes into the
diner.
when he goes into like the, what's that place called? Plop
Plop
Dribbles?
dribbles, yes.
Plop Dribbles.
We did.
And it's so weird to see a swinging door, can I just say?
I don't disagree,
know.
but it's there.
Well, somebody had curtains in their apartment. Somebody had drapes. I think it was.
Well, Padme has this
Padme
big,
has the
big
drape.
bill
I
of
that
mean,
drapes.
weirds me out too.
What's wrong with some
What's wrong with
drapes?
drapes?
You like drapes?
You
It's
gotta
not very. It doesn't seem
spice up
very
your
Star
apartment a
Warsy.
little,
I
you
mean,
know.
shouldn't the
Girl's
drapes
apartment,
just
she's
like?
gonna have some drapes.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Luke's not gonna have them on
floor
Tatooine,
plan-
obviously.
No. No.
She doesn't have a vase with flowers or anything. It's just some drapes.
Actually, I think she does.
Well, come on, of course she does. You know, it's like you know when you
got
get married
yoga
and suddenly you have all those pillows on your bed. You have no idea what they're for. you come home and suddenly there's
very
like 20
true.
pillows there. You can't even get to sleep. Yeah. Like how you got to move all these pillows. We were diagramming it the other day in editorial. I was like, did any of you have this problem?
Oh, yes.
My wife has all these pillows. I don't think you use any of
You
them.
don't have to worry about that when you're a bachelor,
Because one of
right?
them's decorative. You got to lay them on the
exactly
ground
right.
and you get dog hair on them, and it's a whole thing.
This has so much to do with Umbara.
Yeah.
It
It's
really
amazing.
feeds into the day.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
How many pillows do you think Krell has?
Yeah,
Well,
on
he's
his
so
bed?
many arms. I don't know. Maybe you know.
He's probably
Maybe.
needs a body pillow on one side. You know, I mean.
Oh, there it goes.
Yeah.
We talked about pillow settings over Krell's death.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Well, priorities, you know. Yeah.
It's important to note that in the original version of the script, Rex did shoot Krell. And then we deliberated about that. And I talked to Maddie Mektovitz, who wrote the story. And I was like, boy, I don't know. Because having Rex, who really is, I think, to many kids who watch the Clone Wars, an icon of, you know, the good soldier, I thought that would take it a bit too far, which is why, you know, when you look at Dogma, I thought it actually makes more sense for Dogma to do it.
I think it was perfect with Dogma shooting him. I think
It worked really
because he was the
well.
one that lost the most, right?
I followed all of your orders, and you made me kill my brothers!
And he wasn't mature enough to deal with the issue that Rex had to deal with. It's my belief, and we showed this in the end of the episode, that after Dogma shoots Krell, the military police, they still arrest him.
Oh yeah, they totally do.
There has to be a whole trial. They have to look into the whole thing.
Sure.
I mean, and that feeds into also like, so the Chancellor, you know,
is he
and
gonna
for those
weigh in
kids
on
that haven't seen Revenge of the Sith, don't watch the spoiler part. But for the Chancellor, and when Mace Windu and the Jedi go to arrest him, can they just execute this guy?
Yeah, I see.
I mean, he's essentially the head of the entire Galactic Senate. I mean, you just can't walk in and kill him and say, well, he was a Sith Lord, because what does the Senate care? They're like, yeah, but the trains ran on time.
Yeah.
I mean, if Mace Windu kills the Chancellor, Mace Windu gets arrested. You know, it's a very complex world. And while, you know, at the end of the day, it's a fairy tale and very black and white, you know, Luke, in the end, it's a personal vendetta with his father and the Emperor at the end. You know, when the whole Death Star blows up. Look at Plunkett's just
deep.
looking at me. He's just
It's
like,
deep.
here we go. See, can't even. Why even talk about it? Why are we even?
I play your role though.
I just want to.
That's right. That's right.
I'll go on like
We've
that.
switched roles.
Someday, this war is gonna end. Then what? We're soldiers. What happens to us then?